I'm Jack Stafford, and I interview inspiring people in service to others as inspiration for a new song. You can hear all the songs on Spotify, Deezer, iTunes. If you could save them to your library, add them to playlists so they reach more listeners, I'd really appreciate it. Today I'm speaking with my metaphysics teacher, one of the most advanced people I've ever heard of, let alone spoken to. Let's learn from Nehemiah Davis.
The master theorist said one time that a worm is a worm because a worm believed that it's a worm. So it sounds simple, but it's profound truth. You think about that. So we are where we are because we believe that that's where we belong. And we have the limitations we have because we have convinced the mind substance that we control that that's where we should be.
And there's mind substance in everything.
So there's mind substance in everything. You cannot, we exist in a sea of mind. That's what the teachings tell us, and you know that. Because at a moment's notice, your whole environment can change by the shifting of your mind, of your perception. Once you perceive something a certain way, then your whole life changes. Now, are you sensitive enough to realize what that change is? Or are you just there? Like a leaf in the wind. So, but we control our own reality. So.
Yeah, I've read two of your books. The first one was about prayer, and the second one was about mantra. And you also in your classes, in your YouTube classes, you really go into the theory. It's very, super laid out and practical. But then you do give these glimpses into your own experiences, and because those things we can relate to, and those are the most eye-opening, because you just kind of drop them in, as if, and they're very, very profound for us. I mean, I remember some of the experiences you when you were very young. You were praying you got caught in the rain coming home with your sister, wasn't it? And you prayed for a passage through the rain. You used the 12 blessings. And one.
Yeah.
Right.
And the rain parted. The rain moved away and gave us a passageway through. And it was it started us, but we took advantage of it.
Because you were born in a yogic family, everyone was practicing, and
so it's you tell people that and they think you're crazy, but it's true. It's true. So I, by practical experience, as I grew up, and I was taught those things at a very early age, and I practiced it all my life. I had events like that. And it was, it wasn't strange to me because I expected it, but it became strange later because I realized that most people was totally unaware of it. They was totally unaware of the power around them and the ability to mold and shape their reality. They were caught up in all these superficial things. So, and that was more startling to me than the divas opening up a passageway to allow us not to get soaked and wet and drowned in this rainstorm. As I grew up, I realized that a lot of people was totally unaware of the mystic teachings. And although I was fortunate enough to have parents that taught me at an early age, I realized that the people around me had no clue about those teachings. And they had no understanding of mind, prana, uh, yoga, any of the mystic teachings. So uh, that put me in a whole different category. I realized that. So I realized that I couldn't really speak openly about certain things, you know. But it took me on a journey of different experiences, you know.
So how many people are what you would there must be grades of psychic abilities and awareness of the teachings. How many people are what you would do you know who are have these abilities?
I've met hundreds of people with those abilities. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many over my lifetime. I probably met thousands. You know, a lot of people not even aware of their psychic ability. They may have a certain skill, but when you examine them, you realize that it's a psychic skill, and they don't realize that it's a psychic skill. They just go along because they feel like uh, this is a skill that they developed,
Like what kind of
and they
thing?
give other explanations for it. But really, like it's either a deep level of concentration or a heightened or a slight heightened level of contemplation. Contemplation is where a deep level of concentration brings on psychic abilities. Uh, uh, a lower level of contemplation brings on psychic abilities. A high level of psychic contemplation brings on real psychic abilities. But a lot of people develop these things and don't realize that they have developed it. You know, by their own practice, uh, diligent practice. A lot of athletes I noticed in my days had those abilities. Musicians, uh, doctors, you know, these type of professions, you know, firemen, believe it or not, policemen, detectives, they have this psychic ability that they're totally unaware of because the nature of their jobs push them in that direction to develop certain mental capabilities that allow them to examine something in a way that no one else examined it, and to see, those phenomena that other people don't see. So, and remember, in the practical sense, psychic ability is the ability to concentrate to the point where new information comes, and that's when you move into contemplation, and contemplation is the psychic awareness. Is in simple terms is where the physical senses merge with the astral senses and create psychic senses. You know, in functional metaphysical terms, is where the energies within the nadis begin to run in a course towards the brain and stimulate, vibrate the brain and bring about a balance in the two hemispheres of the brain, thereby merging the astral with the psychic senses and opening up a window of understanding, of translation, of mind substance on both levels. You know, not fully, but to a degree where you can analyze and sensitize certain information that's being received by your senses. And that's what it is. So it's no mystery or anything. It's just science.
That's actually the second time this week I've heard an explanation similar to that. It was Richard Lawrence in the same podcast said that historians who might study a historical figure spend a lot of time concentrating, looking at them, studying them, and then they would get impressions about them, but they would deny them because they just think it would be their imagination.
Yeah. But as our master, Dr. George King, said, that imagination is our only creative faculty. And that's so true. Because when you can take your imagination and examine something through imagination and visualization, then it exposes the physical, emotional, astral, and etheric substance that's there with that thing that you're looking at. And it's everything begins and lives in this auric space, which is like a nebula. If you think about it, the scientists talk about a nebula, and from this nebula form the sun form, the planets form, and it creates this solar system. And each planet has this atmosphere around it that came from the sun. Really, it's a shared space of substance. And when they examine the sun, they notice that the sun creates what they call solar plasma. The yogis or the mystics, they call it tavic matter. And it creates this space where the solar system can live. Now, the Cosmic Masters told us they circle around the solar system for so many billions and billions of years until they're absorbed back into the sun. And they go on to a higher level of existence. They come back out in a higher level of existence for a number of incarnations until they themselves become a sun or something greater. So all of us in our own small spheres of existence, we have an aura, and we feed off the substance of our aura. But when you're on the physical plane, you don't necessarily recognize and see the aura, mainly because of your teachings or your belief system. But the aura is always there. But when you can tap into that part of mind substance, you begin to see the aura. There's practices where you can just stare into a mirror slightly upwards, and if you keep staring and keep believing that you can see the aura, you'll begin to see the aura, or your own aura, and then eventually you'll begin to see other people's aura. And it's just shifting the mind to that level of understanding and existence, But it's nothing mysterious. It's there, but we just have to accept that it's there.
Yeah. Because the sun is also the atoms in our body and the nucleus and the inside each cell is it's no accident that it's a reflection of the planets, and the sun.
Yeah, we all of us are solidified sunlight. Right. That's what all our bodies are made from. It's a shared substance from the sun. So, we exist and have our being within that shared substance of the sun. So, and that's what the mystics tell us. The scientists believe that now. But the mystics said it thousands upon thousands of years ago. So,
yeah, it was a long way behind.
Yeah.
So, so you developed. So clairvoyance, receiving information, is one of the siddhis of this, and so that's a result of concentration, and then you move on to contemplation and eventually meditation. But just also some of the experiences you've had, they go kind of beyond receiving information, though. You're able to control matter, and you learn to do astral projection, and so you can leave the physical form and go on to other realms. How was it to develop that? What kind of experiences have you had through that?
Well, I had a lot of experience. I don't like to talk about it, but I was able, from a child, I was able to project naturally, and I thought everyone was able to do that. Like I said earlier, I would go to sleep at night, and I would be standing outside my body. I see my body laying on the bed, and then I go play, go running and looking, and it was not only me. I noticed I had my sister. I had a younger sister of mine that was able to do the same thing, and my brother, my older brother, he was able to do the same thing, and so we, we would go out. Sometimes we would hang together. Sometimes we'd go in different directions. But we were able to do that. And later on, as you reach puberty, you begin to lose those abilities, and then you had to work harder to keep those abilities or to refine those abilities. And I think mostly it's because of your environment, your interests, your belief system that's been drilled into you by the adults and teachers and people around you. But fortunately, I had dozens and dozens of lecture tapes from Dr. George King. I had my father that was there guiding and teaching me, and my older brother. And so I was able to harness back in and get my mind right and begin to reserve some of those psychic abilities that came to me naturally, from a child, so. And I studied hard and worked hard and practiced on the yoga teachings for many, many years.
You also did it from a young age, from 3, and you also did 7 years of very intense practices. I remember you said one time. Pranayama, mantra, deep concentrations.
On a daily basis, I did it. I did the pranayama, the mantra, the prayers from His Eminence and the Master Jesus, and I would spend 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes up to 6 hours in practice for many years until I began to obtain certain levels of consciousness, and then I had to go out into the real world, and in order to function, I had to go into to college, to the work space, and had to deal with people on a regular basis.
Did you make a conscious decision at some point to go down the road of because you have another, you're not I didn't say professional yogi, you're not what, because I'd have some psychics that want to come on this show, they have a PR agent, they're writing all these books, but you have a day job, you're not doing this full time. So did you take a decision at some point?
Yeah, I mean, the job I took was, I'm a community developer. The job I took was to build a community back up, and it's social service, it's business, because I was born into one of the poorest towns in the United States. In fact, it was classified as the sixth poorest town in the United States. So I spent the last 30 some years working in community development settings, helping the people. So that's yogic work, in my opinion.
Karma yoga.
You know, because I spent a lifetime serving. You know, and I helped many people in the area. So I wanted to, and from day one, that's something I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to bring about decent, affordable homes. I wanted to set up social service programs to help people deal with so many social ills that is you can't even explain it. You know, and I wanted to help train younger people to be able to keep that work up even after I transitioned. And that was my ideal concept since I was 12 years old. So I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do. You know, I also went into the medical profession thinking that I could help that way. And I went to and got several medical certifications, and I found that I could do more for the people of the area by going into community development. And when it happened to me, it was it just happened in a sense. Everything just came together, and I was able to. It was after Hurricane Andrew. Although before then I was in the medical profession. I sat on certain boards. I volunteered. You know, I did a lot of. I learned a lot. In my father was a builder and architect, so I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from one of the members that I brought to the Theater Society at 17 years of age. I also found myself teaching at 17 years of age at a local Science of Mind center. They had this open discussion, and I would go in there, and eventually the minister asked me to give a couple classes, and that's how I started out giving classes. And really, I thought something was wrong with him because I didn't think I knew anything. So, but I did it anyway. And I end up bringing a couple people to the Theater Society, and I learned from him. That was Leo Backus. He was a general contractor, so I did hands-on stuff with him as well. He taught me. You know, I taught him metaphysics. He taught me his trade, and I found later on that I can move on in that direction and help more people. That's what I did for the last 30 some years. So I think that is a part of yoga. I think I didn't create a yoga center. I did create the International Mystic Knowledge Center. But I don't spend my whole day. I hope to retire into that. But I don't spend my whole day focusing on that. But I do talk to a lot of people from all over the world every week, the same way I'm talking to you, and on metaphysical subjects. People, they write me, they call me, and we talk, and I help them out in most cases, you know. But I think, you know, like the master said, we can't go into the, into the wilderness and just don't communicate and help people. We have to be out. So from a very early age, I took an active stand in doing that. Mm-hmm. You know, and after the storm, after the Hurricane Andrew, I did a lot of work and put a lot of housing into that area, and And I was one of the people that helped transform that little town into a better place to live, you know. And I got a lot of awards, national awards, local awards for doing that. And at the time, I didn't know I was doing anything special. I was just doing what I was doing, you know. And, you know, then later on, as I kept the work up, I refused awards because it gave you the wrong spotlight, and it kind of stopped you from doing what you needed to do. You know, when people put too much spotlight on you have people constantly coming disturbing you, and you can't finish the job that you're doing. You know, so you just want to work and make sure that things get done. So.
Yeah, I remember you saw that you could see the hurricane coming. You used your psychic abilities to warn a lot of people to leave the area before it came.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And the first time I had the psychic experience, I didn't know what was happening. I had just finished. It was years ahead. It was years before, and I had just finished my pranayama session. I had like a 3-hour
Wow.
pranayama session, and press. And I came out of my house, and I walked to the end of the sidewalk that came from the porch, and I would go there and I would sit there for 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes just to regroup, you know. And it was a huge forest with a lot of pine trees right in front of the house. So that was a nice place to sit, you know. So, and just before I sat down, I walked. When I walked to the end, I walked into the future. And all around me, the whole neighborhood was not what it was. It was all new houses, all new buildings. The whole city had transformed. And I'm looking and saying, what just happened to me? And the houses that was knocked down and rebuilt, the person who rebuilt them, they gave them pastel type colors, which had a certain signature to it. You know, you know, you can't take that out of your mind because of the color array. And I'm looking at it, and an inner voice said, "This is the future after the hurricane or the storm or whatever." And then I stepped one. I think I stepped forward, and it all disappeared. You know, the vision went away, and then years later, you know, it was the storm was headed our way, but after that, I had like 2 or 3 more visions of the same thing. And when the storm was headed that way, I told everyone, I say, we're not going to be able to stop this storm. It's going to hit. It's going to destroy the area. And I told everybody that was connected to me, I told them to tell people who's connected to them to get out of the pathway or buckle down, because it's going to be a terrible storm. And the storm transformed that area. So, and then we spent 2 or 3, 4 years just rebuilding. You know, we went almost 6 months to a year with no electricity, you know, in that area. So the National Guard had to come in and bring about control and set up feeding areas. You know, it's terrible for the vegetarians,
Oh, yeah.
you know. So we had to travel so far away just to get our food, because the food that the Army or the Red Cross was giving they didn't think about.
You've never eaten meat, no? In your whole life? Yeah. No.
No. The times that traces of meat got into my food, I end up in the hospital. You know. So I never ate meat. So my whole family was vegetarians. Now some of them, as they grew older, they began to eat fish and chicken, and, you know, but I never did that. but yeah, so that was a real experience back then with Hurricane Andrew. It's a real experience.
And do you use your psychic abilities in your day job? Do they help on a day-to-day basis as well?
No, I don't focus in on that. I mean, you just see things, and I don't really concentrate on that. I try not to. I try not to focus in on that. It's like Dr. George King taught us that you have to stay practical in a sense. But if someone comes in my presence, I may see things, know things. I may never talk about it, and 99% of the times I won't talk about it, and I don't invade people's privacy. Only time I will look into a person or a particular object is for security reasons. To make sure that I'm all right, or the people around me is all right. But other than that, I try to use my abilities to understand, to teach, to serve. You know, uh, not to not to just find all the secrets about people and the things around me, or to gain money or something like that.
I guess you're so incredibly grounded because you did it from such a young age, and you had such a good upbringing in the yogic family that you.
Yeah, and we got to live by the laws of karma. And our first thing is we have to learn to live in this environment that we put ourselves in. So in doing that, we have to do like the masters do. We have to live a strict karmic life. Learn to follow uh, the path of karma. And since we're so ignorant on so many things, we have to be cautious on how we move forward. So uh, you have to examine things to the detail before you move forward with that action, because that action might hurt other people or hurt the things around us. Because so many things we do in our environment destroy other life forms, but we're like totally unaware of that because of our ignorance. So we need to, as you grow in your spiritual life and your awakening, you need to be aware of all the life forms around you that's helping you to sustain your life, and all the life forms around you that's striving for spiritual growth themselves. And our actions stunt the growth of other people sometimes because we're so oblivious to everything around us. So those, if you use your psychic ability for anything, you use it for that. And one of the things you do, we're taught that once you develop concentration, you move into contemplation. Contemplation moves you into a psychic uh, realm where you can begin to examine things, where you examine those things in a silent way, and in a sense, you develop this thing called samyama, and you do a samyama on everything around you, so you know your environment, and you silently do a samyama, and there's levels of samyama, so there's different levels of samyama, so you examine everything around you so that you can know how to work around that thing or act around that thing, or do whatever you do without disturbing, because that's your goal. Your goal is not to use your abilities for selfish reasons, but you use your abilities in order to sustain life and grow life within you and around you. You know, and eventually your psychic abilities move to an advanced psychic level, and that's when you move into the higher levels of contemplation and lower levels of meditation. You know, and you move into after you can move into the lower levels of meditation, you eventually move into the levels of samadhi. And there's many levels of samadhi until you have this deep samadhi, you know, and then you go from there. You go into cosmic consciousness, but at the same time, there's one thing that which Dr. King talks about and the masters talk about, and that is that you realize that you have to work within the strict laws of karma. You can't just go rogue. You need to understand and see, all the yogas teach us that from thousands of years ago. You know, Nana Yoga, you cannot have Nana Yoga without Kama Yoga. Nana Yoga it teaches you intelligent movement. What is karma? Karma is action. The Sanskrit terminology for karma is action. Because why? Because in order to have action, there's there's a law that you must follow in order to move from point A to point B. And move from point B to point C, you always have to follow rules and regulations. If you don't, you find that you can't make it to the next point until you conform yourself to the rules. How do you conform yourself to the rules? You conform yourself to the rules by Jnana Yoga, by intelligent movement, intelligent understanding. See? So all the yogas have been teaching us this for millions of years. You have Jnana Yoga, you have Kama Yoga. Kama Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Kama Yoga is one and the same. There's no difference between the two. And then you have Bhatta Yoga. Bhatta Yoga is the yoga of devotion. But there's another thing to Bhatta Yoga. It's observance of God. Because if you devoted to God, you observe the rules and regulations and the atmosphere in which God has placed you in. So Bhatta Yoga and Jnana Yoga and Kama Yoga is one and the same. So it all helps. The next yoga you run into is Raja Yoga, which is the yoga of mental development. But how do you shape and mold your environment? Through mental development. When you gain the power over mind, you know how to manipulate your environment. And how do you manipulate your environment? By following the rules, by having the Jnana Yoga, which teaches you intelligent movement, which helps you to predetermine your actions. And Kama Yoga is the rules, that the universal, the cosmic rules of predetermining your action. And Bhatta Yoga teaches you to observe the divine, the creator, and by devotion to the creator, you devote yourself to the laws of karma. So all the yogas play into itself. Now, Raja Yoga is the royal yoga because why? Raja Yoga lay out the pathway to the divine. Inside of Raja Yoga, you have the 8 limbs of yoga, and the 8 limbs of yoga go right back to the beginning, which is Yama, which is control your thoughts and actions. Niyama, observe the divine creator. So it's all the limbs teaches you about karma yoga, about making the right actions, predetermining your actions. You have the third. I think the third limb is asana, which is the seat of power, where you learn how to mobilize yourself and immobilize yourself through mudras in order to seat, in order to direct the energy within you, because mudra yoga or asanas is directing the energy, the mind and energy through your body. and creating a seal so that you can receive the energy and then redirect the energy in the right way. That's what it's about. Pranayama is the fourth one, where you, after you have prepared yourself to take the energy, then you begin to take the energy into yourself, and you distribute the energy in the right way, following the laws of karma, and then you go to pratyahara. Pratyahara is withdrawing the senses. You withdraw the senses within you because you have worked on the first four limbs of yoga, and you brought about control. You're observing the divine. You prepared yourself to receive the energy of the divine, and you have strictly followed the rules of pranayama in bringing the energy in and disposing of the energy. And now you can work on your senses. You withdraw the senses so that you recognize the divine spark of God within you, and then you go into the mental world, where all of us really live, and you use these weapons to bring about concentration, contemplation, and meditation, as Dr. King has described to us. And that's the pathway, that's the road towards development. And in your development, you'll notice that you must conform yourself to the laws of karma, as Dr. George King taught us. And conforming yourself to the laws of karma is you must be of service 24 hours a day. Because if you do it the first 12 hours while you're awake, you'll do it the next 12 hours while you sleep or resting. So, but the laws, the knowledge have always been here, and all the masters got it right. The last few masters defined it better than the first group, and it was only defined better, I think, because they help us awake, bring about awakening in ourselves to recognize what they were saying. Because in most cases, people don't recognize truth. You can speak truth all day long to them, and they don't hear you. They only hear what they want to hear. And that's the big difference.
Yeah. I mean, you've done thousands of hours of free video classes on YouTube. That's how I found you. I was in India. I started waking up at 3:33 every night, and it was and I googled it. What does that mean? And that said in the YouTube videos, you should just look around for synchronicities in the daytime, maybe just getting some messages. And I was staying behind a Kundalini center, and someone said Kundalini to me somewhere else, and then my doctor said read the Serpent Power, and so I tried to get that, but it's a very complicated book now. So I ended up just searching from YouTube, as you do, for a video class, and yours came up first. So, and you explained it so clearly, because it's such a there's truth there in your face, but it's very complicated. You made it so clear, really explained it very well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. It's hours and hours of service you've done there.
Yeah, I have a lot of students over in India that write me or call me or whatever.
Because you explained it so clearly, and without the Sanskrit and without the...
Yeah, because they told me that no one teaches it the way I do. It's very mysterious and complicated, and I don't understand. I don't understand why they would do that. Why they make it so complicated. But when you went back to the Serpent Power, you was able to understand and see it, right?
I haven't got the book, so I haven't gone back. I've kind of accelerated through it. I just kind of found the Aetherius Society and found that a lot more interesting, a lot more westernized. And
download the book.
All right.
Download the book. The book is on my website, so
That's another thing on your
download it.
website. You have all these
It's
books
like,
for free. These mystery school books, which you would never get. One of
Mhm.
them is worth more than you just.
I know.
They're all for free there. I mean, it's incredible. So, if anyone's looking for truth, I mean, there's enough for a few lives just on your website.
Yeah,
So,
but the thing is that Dr. King teaches make things so simple,
the 9 freedoms. Yeah.
and he's able to bring you to a point of understanding and enlightenment. But the problem with most people is that he did the detailed work, you know. So we need to do some of the detailed work. If you go back, if you listen, if you study his teachings, go back to the Serpent Power book, and even go back, and you don't have to read all of it. Just read one passage, and you'll be blown away with the level of understanding you gain from that because you studied the Aether
Okay.
Society teachings. You studied the teachings of Dr. George King and the Cosmic Masters, and you'll see the Serpent Power and a
Madame
lot of those
Blavatsky's Secret
books in a
Doctrines
whole
and
different light. And Velasquez's Secret Doctrine, you begin to understand what she was trying to say, and Dr. King says it in 20, 30 minutes when it took her volumes of books because of course she was speaking from a different language. She was she was, I think she was a duchess, and she traveled the world, and she, you know, there was so many things that was stopping her from being able to be as clear. But when you look at it overall, she was very clear for her time.
okay.
You know, she was very, you know, uh, powerful for her time. I mean, who in the 1800s, 1860 or 70 was writing a article describing the pain that she felt from all the animals being slaughtered at sunrise in order to put food on the table. You know, she described that so, clear that it would make you just cry. She said millions of chickens and pigs and cows, they're being slaughtered right now because the sun has just risen. What a way to honor a god, huh? And that's one of the things that she was trying to explain to people to take on a life of vegetarianism. The karma, the collective karma that we're placing on ourselves. In honor of the sunrise, we go and take a defenseless animal and chop their heads off and begin to, clean it in order to feed ourselves when the earth give us all the food that we need by planting the seed. And when you pick the fruit off the tree, you take the seeds and you honor the plant by replanting the seeds, and that's good
Mm-hmm.
karma, you know. But to take a chicken, you know, and kill it and feed it, that's it might be good karma and negative karma, but I think it's more negative karma than good karma. It's good karma that you're nourishing the body, but it's negative karma that you're taking a life. Then there's another negative karma that you put in those basic mental vibrations inside your body without properly cleansing them. So those are type of articles and books that she wrote in her time, which is
She was also the
profound.
first person to
You
mention the
know,
law of attraction, I think, which is very popular now.
I don't know if she was the first person, but she made it. She had over 100,000 members and followers, just in I think just in the United States, and parts of Europe. And that was a lot for those days, you know. And then she began to, she had a large following in India too, you know, and the Tibetan people honored her too. But I would go back after studying the Third Society and hearing the keys to understand those teachings. You'll find that they're very similar teachings, and that Dr. King just explained it better.
I'll do that.
You know, with fewer words. You know, it's the same thing with the serpent power. You know, Dr. King explained it with fewer words, very simple. But Avalon gives you a lot of the details. You know, the serpent power gives you a lot of details. You know, so I would do that if you really want to be a student of that.
I've just got suddenly overwhelmed with this podcast project, and I spend more time researching other guests than I used, because I did a lot of intense study of you, and then I have curtailed it because of time with this project. But Richard Lawrence talks a lot about in his that now the surface that Karma Yoga is the fast path now. Have you contemplated on that? Do you think that's true?
Well, I always thought that. You know, that's because you cannot have, like I said earlier, you cannot have Jnana Yoga without Karma Yoga. You cannot have Bhakti Yoga without Karma Yoga. You cannot have Raja Yoga without Karma Yoga. You can't have Hatha Yoga, Mantra Yoga, Mudra Yoga. None of the yogas can you have without Karma Yoga. And remember, the key word for Karma Yoga is action, you know, and it's a balanced action. So all the yogas teaches you what? How to balance your actions on one level or another, you know. So you cannot have any of these yogas. Tantra Yoga is balancing your actions by doing what? By taking all your actions, because Tantra Yoga is a yoga where you loom all the yogas together in order to do what? In order to force an awakening of Kundalini. But it's balancing your action. The key word is action. So what does action mean in ancient Sanskrit? It means karma. It means karma. So you Karma Yoga is the yoga for all the centuries. Okay. For all the centuries. So that's you know, Dr. King just came and just told us this, you know, and laid it out in such simple understanding that we can go back and examine the ancient teachings and say, oh my God, this been here all the time, and we did not see it.
But we should do.
But it took.
But we should still do some mantra and pranayama daily practices to. Yeah.
Of course, Dr. King told us to do that. He told us to do it. You know, but he said you cannot go in the caves and do it. You must do it around everyone. You know, you must live a daily life and do this at the same time. You know, so that means sacrifice. That means predetermining your actions. You know, instead of going out and partying and eating and socializing and watching 10 hours of television a day, you take 3-4 hours and you do your mantra, your prayer, and you know, and your healing work for the world. You know, and you begin to notice that you balance your actions. You know, you begin to practice, devote more time and energy to the right karmic actions by balancing your actions. You know, and you'll notice a difference. And not only that, you begin to code the aura, you know, in a certain way. And when you code the aura in a certain way, you clear the nadi pathways to allow you to have clear vision, clear smell, clear taste, clear touch. You know, because why? All the obstruction or the negative some scars that you built up in the body begin to fade away. they begin to be burnt up, or and you move all that obstruction, and then all of a sudden you begin to become awakened. You know, because why? You're balancing your actions. You're coding the aura. You're coding the notic pathways. The notic pathways is the flow of energy that's going through your mental and vital bodies, whether it's the physical body, the astral body, the emotional body, the mental body, or the etheric body. You know, and now you can think better. You can feel the power of God coming in and out of the naughty knots, the cosmic vortex centers called the chakras. You begin to feel that energy moving in and out, and you become awakened. You know, so yeah, I agree with Richard Lawrence. I agree with Dr. George King on those points. It's the new yoga, as Dr. King described it in the early '70s. You know, uh, the yoga of service is, and let me tell you, um, um, the Tibetan that spoke through um, Alice Bailey said that in the early 1920s. You know, said the same thing. In fact, he predicted that a bodhisattva, which is a cosmic master, will be born. In fact, he said there was three that was going to be born
Three lights.
back then, and one was going to. Yeah, he predicted the coming of Dr. George King, and she predicted the coming of Dr. They said one would be born in England, and he would set up a world serving group in England, and then he would move to California, and he'll set up a world serving group in California. You know, and they will usher in the new age. That was predicted, you know, way back then, in the early 1900s, the late 1800s, early 1900s. It was predicted by Alice Bailey and the Tibetan that spoke through her. And then they said I remember reading, one of my students took my books, where the book that marked up all the predictions. They took it out of my library, but it's there in one of her books. I think it's in the esoteric psychology book that she wrote. It's in one of those volumes she wrote, where she described, and she said that in the 1970s, this organization will usher in a new yoga for the world. And in the 1970s, Dr. King gave us Operation Prayer Power. He gave us a lot of different new yogas, but one of the newest yogas was Operation Prayer Power. But she predicted that her and the Tibetan that spoke through her was a member of the Great White Brotherhood. And they predicted that the coming of the organization called it their.
Do you know where the two other lights were born? Was she predicted?
I don't. It was somewhere in the East, in the Middle East, you know. And she also talked about that one of the bodhisattvas would, because a bodhisattva is a great avatar that came to the earth. That, you know, and she also predicted. She talked about the 12 evil black musicians that was in the world, and that these bodhisattvas was coming to clean up the lower astral realms. You know, so she, she predicted that as well. You know, she said that was one of their main missions, was to come here and clean up, and because she said that the 12 she talked about the 12 evil entities, or that she said 6 of them lived in the ancient world, in the Oriental world, how she described it, and 6 lived in the Occidental world, which she called the Western world, and she said that they control the world. You know, they have the governments to move in the directions that they move into. But I would have never probably seen that and understood that if I didn't listen to the teachings and study the teachings of their society. So that's why I say go back after you gain and you connect with the master, because the master's still here, in spirit and in his teachings. And when you make that connection with his teachings and all his auto recordings, it awakens you in a sense, and then you can see what these other adepts and masters who wrote, hundreds and hundreds of volumes. You can begin to see what they couldn't tell you openly, and he had the ability to tell us openly. In a sense, even he had restrictions, but he had a simplicity about in the way he spoke to open our minds. And we were able to see.
I've connected with him in a way that I could never have done with the esoteric teachings. Yeah,
because they spoke in code, and they just didn't have the ability or didn't have the permission at that time.
So I'm working on a song. I've already worked the "I don't dwell on your physical shell," which I thought had quite a poetic rhyme, a nice meter to it. I was inspired by because your next book is the mystic constitution of man. I just need a few more lyrics for the verse, so maybe you could just quickly tell me a little bit about the mystic constitution of man. A huge subject, but
yeah, it's a huge subject. I think all the books talk about the mystic constitution of man. And because it was introduced to me at a very early age, I think I was maybe like 3 or 4 years old when I first heard it. And but all the books, even the Serpent Power, is about the mystic constitution of man. Dr. King gave a initiatory tape when you joined the Mystic Order of St. Peter. He gave a book. A lecture on the mystic constitution of man. He doesn't call it that, but he calls it something else. But that's what it describes, the mystic constitution of man. But so all the metaphysics, if you sum it up, it describes the spirit, which is the divine spark of God. That's our real self, the I am. And that spirit never moves its position because it's always with the divine spark. It lives on that realm that's always been here. It was never created. And then the spirit creates the soul. And the soul becomes the body, the traveling body of the spirit. And then the soul creates the auric body, which is an indestructible body. And that body takes on the journey of involution and evolution. Now the soul is, it takes a position with the spirit in order to constantly communicate with the spirit. But it also takes another position as the traveling aspect of the spirit. In order to do that, it creates the auric body. And the auric body is like this nebula that pulls in the substance from the universe or the galaxy or the perspective galaxy that is within. And it forms this auric structure that's indestructible. And it moves on a journey to take us through involution and evolution back to the divine spark. So in doing that, the auric body, through soul management, as Dr. King described it, takes on a mental body, this mental body takes advantage of the cosmic energy that the auric body is designed to pull from the Mahabindus of the galaxy, which is the suns and planets of the galaxy, and then this mental body shape and mold this shati, this modified shati substance from these great celestial gods into the etheric body, into Kundalini, into the emotional body, into lower levels of the mental body, into the astral body, into the physical body. And then it cycles these bodies in and out for hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of incarnations until it get to a point where the risen or ascended body utilize the full source of the auric body. And Dr. King described to us that the aura is the aura is absorbed back into the space of the physical body, and then you have an ascended body or a cosmic body.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the level of ascension. You know, and the Vedas speaks about it too. They say the same thing, that a master, an avatar has no aura. A great master has no aura because they have absorbed all the energy within them, and they only use that energy according to the strict laws of karma. So they don't pollute the atmosphere the way we constantly pollute the atmosphere with our negative thoughts and our aimless actions and movements that means nothing but to create waves of negative energy that seem to drag everything around us down. When the great avatars move, they move with precision, understanding, and direction, predetermined direction. So, and that's karma. That's karma. It always goes back to karma. So there's, even when you read the episodes or the events that Dr. King talk about in his contact with the great masters, you'll always see that all their actions are very precise on what they do and how they do it. And it's really amazing the more you study it and read it and listen to it. It's profound that they still can have this this so-called individual life, but yet still follow the laws of karma. Where they don't step out of bounds. And every action is predetermined to bring about a series of actions that will better the position of humanity and the celestial gods as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll finalize that song. Well, this has been great. I could keep going on chatting to you for hours, but I know you've got to get to work. So thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. No worries.
Thanks for inviting me.
I'm speaking with my next podcast already today. I'm recording it with the King Yoga. We're talking about Pranayama.
Okay.
And with him about Pranayama. And when I was in India, when I first started practicing Pranayama, I was having a very intensive Ayurveda treatment with these oils, which is super pranic. And when I started waking up at 3:33, and my count then was 90 seconds in, 90 seconds out. I could do really long breaths. I'd never been able. I can't do that now. And so that's something we're practicing with the breathing, just to give people an idea. I know it's not, boast about these things, but when you're doing when you've done a 3 hours session and you've been doing it for years, what would your count roughly? Could you get up?
It could be 90. It could be 90 to 100, or even more. I went into sessions where I didn't have to breathe. So, and I went into sessions where, in fact, the first time it happened to me, I think I was around 15 or 16 years old. I didn't know what was happening. I stopped breathing, my heart stopped, and I had a Kundalini rising, and my mind expanded across the city and across the county, and then my mind went up into the upper atmosphere of the earth, you know, and I realized at that point I was having a spontaneous Kundalini rise. So it happens. So don't think that it doesn't happen. But fortunately, I had my father there who had experience, and when I came out, I was mentally disshuffled, and I was drained, and my father, he did pranayama healing on me and him and my brother in order to help me through the process. But it happens when you do these long pranayama for years. It happens. And at that time, I think that was my fifth or sixth year, because I started around 10 or 11 years old, trying to do it for hours and hours on end every day. So, but you know, it can get really, really intense. But you have to keep it up in order to be able to do that. In order to have those long sessions.
With your students, you advise them to do it very slowly and
yeah, and my whole thing too is knowledge. Because a lot of people go into this, and they, especially in the Western world, they go into it and they try to describe things according to their emotions. And that's why you should always have, even Dr. King said, study the teachings. He said, I'm not here to teach you the teachings. I'm here, he had a specific mission here. But and you go back and listen to his lectures in the 12 Blessings and the 9 Freedoms, he put a lot of emphasis on studying the ancient teachings, and that and even one time when he was talking about the AUM and the new information that came out through Mars Sector 6 about transmutation and not transmigration. He said that he didn't think that anything could be improved on the ancient teachings. That was his words. He said, but Mars Sector 6, it was the right kind of time to introduce that new information. So in the Western world, they dismiss a lot of the ancient teachings, but he gave us a lot of great masters that we could study behind, or adepts that we could study behind. They got it right. Swami Vivekananda got it right. I think he was a member of the Great White Brotherhood. Swami Sivananda, who was another cosmic master, got it right. A lot of his students got it right. So, there's a lot of teachers out there that got it right. He spoke about the serpent power. Dr. King said that you can read the book for 20 years and you only understand 2 or 3 pages.
I have the same
That's
feeling.
A quote from him. Yeah, but that was a quote from him. So he said, but he didn't say not study it. He said study it. But the guide to studying is his teachings. So you study his teachings, and you go back and you can see these things, and you can begin to describe them better instead of describing them in a very emotional state from your feeling, but your feeling is absent of detailed information and knowledge. And Dr. King was a scientist, so we should honor him in studying those things. Use his teachings as a rule. Go back and study these teachings, and then you'll see, even if they miss something, his teachings fill the gaps, because something he told us would describe
Right.
what they was trying to say and describe it in a better way. And I know it may take a couple lifetimes to do that, but
Start now.
it's worth doing. So.
Well, thanks very much. It's been like a light shining into my room speaking to you. And the classes on Sunday, every Sunday, I love just listening, and I don't have so many questions anymore, because when I first came, I had loads of questions, but now I just kind of, the main ones have been answered. So I just go to be in your presence and to have my enthusiasm refreshed, because I don't have anyone around me here who's in any way into this. So thank you for giving us your time.
All right, thank you for having me. All right.
Don't dwell on your physical shell. It's temporary. Borrowed from the sun. Yours and everyone's. The physical plane, here vibrating. All that's born's disintegrating. It's not physical, only fleeting. Carriages for the souls you're meeting. Ephemeral, transient. Use it while you've remenants. Your body you made, it wasn't God. He'd have done a better job. Don't dwell on your physical shell, 'cause it's the only thing you see. Open to the entire spectrum. Be all you can be. See the people go through hassle, building their little sandcastles. Wanna make you big, wanna make you thin, all before the tide comes in. Wearing it out, 'cause you're nervous. Instead of living in selfless service, hold yourself back, limit the senses. Get stuck behind illusory fences, 'cause you fell for your physical shell and think it's all you are. Wake up to the real truth, you're greater now by far. And on the Astral, fulfilling desires with the love, or in the fires, reincarnating here and there, back and forth until you evolve. Don't dwell on your physical shell, 'cause there's far more to you. Your dark matter matters more. Think about what you do. Don't dwell on your physical shell. Use it as a tool to help others gain experience. Graduate from school.
Thanks for tuning in. You can get the song on Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, anywhere songs live. I'm actually releasing them a little bit later there, so people first come to the show to listen to the songs, and then afterwards on the streaming services. But you can go directly to podsongs.com and get it from there for $1. That really helps pay my musicians, Mauricio Sanicola, Massimino Vozza, Luigi Falcione, and my researcher Dori Verbo. Otherwise, streaming really pays peanuts. Thanks again. See you next time.